So are they cooking the books? That's sort of today's video and the question we should be asking. And this is of the AI startups, big tech, Wall Street, even the government. Are they cooking the books? And look at this. This is from Michael Burry, right? Big Short investor Michael Burry accuses AI hyperscalers of artificially boosting earnings. Now, if you're familiar with Michael Burry, you saw the movie The Big Short, you'll know that he bet against the housing market back in the great financial crisis, turned out to be right. And essentially, he's doing the same thing again regarding the AI bubble. He made a big $1 billion bet against Palantir and NVIDIA, and now is calling out the big tech companies. This is a chart that he put out here. It's got Meta, Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon on it, all the big companies. And if you get the basic gist of the chart, we're talking about depreciation and how you calculate that. And the idea is that I guess the tech companies are changing the way they calculate it by saying that the chips last longer than before, which is counterintuitive, in my opinion. Because I immediately, when I saw the chart, I was like, wait, what? So just think of it this way, just put most basic terms, okay? If indeed we're in this like crazy AI, market industry, and you buy whatever NVIDIA chip, do you think that chip will last longer? Do you think your business will be able to use it longer than before, right? The reverse would be if I buy a chip today, actually I have to upgrade. I have to buy a new chip sooner than before, right? Because you look at this. Another way to put it is the lifespan, right? How long can you use said chips? Network compute depreciation useful life years. So in the past, say in 2020, something like a Meta, right? Facebook, right? Zuckerberg and the gang, they're saying, okay, chips, right, are only useful for like 3 years. Now in 2025, they say these chips that we buy are useful for 5.5 years. Huh. Okay. Google, I guess in 2020, they said, hey, the chips that we're buying are useful for, say, 3 years, right? The lifespan of these things, now we're saying 6 years. Oracle went from 5 to 6, Microsoft from 3 to 6, and Amazon from 4 to 5. Actually, it moved around from 4, 6, and then 5. Let's listen to what Michael Burry has to say here. He says, understanding depreciation by extending useful life of assets artificially boosts earnings, one of the most common frauds of the modern era. Okay. Massively ramping up CapEx through purchases of NVIDIA chip servers on 2 to 3 year product cycles should not result in the extension of useful lives of compute equipment. So just break this down real quick. He's saying here, okay, when you buy NVIDIA chip today, they're only really good for a couple of years, right? You basically have to upgrade them, to keep up with the current demands, etc. The thing that the NVIDIA is really interesting because they're the big winners of this AI bubble, essentially. And this is all about everyone's going to be buying their chips to infinity to compete with all the other companies doing it. And I didn't know about this, depreciation manipulation, but just logically speaking, okay, just logically speaking, and I'd like to hear from people in the tech world on this one. Does that make sense to extend the lifespan in terms of accounting other than cooking the books, right? And so he's saying this is, again, common fraud of the modern era. So we're calling fraud here. Michael Burry also says, yet this is exactly what all the hyperscalers have done. By my estimates, they will understate depreciation by 176 billion between 2026 and 2028. By 2028, Oracle will overestimate earnings 26.9%, Meta by 20.8%, etc. But it gets worse. More detail coming November 25th. Stay tuned. Okay, so that's in a couple weeks. So I guess he's going to be releasing more info. CNBC then, of course, going to reach out and say, hey, do you have any comment? Then it's no comment, right? CNBC has reached out to Oracle, Meta for comments. NVIDIA declined to comment. Burry's accusation is a serious one, but could be hard to prove because of the leeway companies are giving in estimating depreciation. CNBC was not independently able to confirm this practice was being done by the company. So that's the interesting question. And that's the question I pose to you. Do you think they're cooking the books? Now, I would say that they're definitely in a bubble. The cooking the book thing, we'll probably get more of this from Michael Burry as we find out. It said November 25th, so we'll keep an eye on that. Now, regards to the government, and we got more to go over because this is all connected. Hassett, which is Trump's economic advisor dude, who may or may not be our Fed chair, he's saying, Hassett says lost October data means cloudy economic outlook. Right? Are we losing data now? Is that what we're doing? and that was back when they didn't report the numbers for October. So we'll see if we get numbers for November. We'll see. This is from Hassett, what he says. I've been told that some of the surveys were never actually completed, so we'll never perhaps even know what happened in that month. Okay, so, we're going to be staring a little bit in cloudy weather for a while until we get the data agencies back up. Okay, so I don't think they want to release the data. I mean, that's what Hassett says. I mean, you can literally see his saying, okay, it's cloudy. Are we losing data? What are we doing? More just from Hassett. Some of this stuff is lost forever. Okay, now we're saying we just lost it. And some of it isn't, okay? But I would guess by the first quarter of next year, we'll be back at the 3 or 4% growth pace. Oh, really? Okay, I'll just be flat out frank with you guys. I mean, I wouldn't trust any numbers that the Trump people put out. And when they're claiming we're going to be growing at 3 to 4%, come on. No one has been saying that, and well, only they've been saying that, but you look at what Wall Street projections or international projections of the U.S. growth, it's not going to be 3 to 4. Especially what you see with just like regular people on the ground, when we're a consumer-based economy in the U.S. and they want to fire everyone and replace y'all with robots. Like, none of it really adds up. And there's more. This bubble just keeps getting crazier and crazier. This came out in the Wall Street Journal today. I mean, it's all kind of exploding in the same day. 3 AI mega deals are breaking new ground on Wall Street. Novel approaches to financing and OpenAI Meta XI deals shows risk and rewards of the AI frenzy. And so basically, we'll go through some details, but basically the long story short, these companies need creative ways to finance these big data centers. This all ends up being about data centers, right? Buying chips and building these things out. And then none of these things may be profitable necessarily because it just requires a lot of construction to put these things up. And then you got a lot of big, water and energy demands. And when you look at the money being passed around, you'll see, okay, it's just all a big grift. I'll read it. Tech giants need so much money for their artificial intelligence ambitions that Wall Street is developing new ways to get it for them. Okay, we need creative ways to raise the money, essentially what it ends up being. Details of some of the biggest AI infrastructure deals, including some involving Meta, OpenAI, and XAI. And XAI is the Elon Musk stuff, and that's a whole fiasco where he does a lot of creative ways to funnel money around his companies and pump up his, companies by saying you're all going to have 1 million robots kind of stuff. Actually, billions and tens of billions, actually, I should say. That's from Elon's own words we talked about yesterday. Are coming into focus, revealing lucrative innovation and in some case, risky funding schemes. This is our world. And you got to understand this stuff. Just the basic gist of it. Because if these things all basically go bust, which I wouldn't be shocked if some of these do. I've seen this before. I lived through the .com. I lived through great financial crisis. This, goes booms and busts things. And when things are booming, everything, looks like you can't lose. But it's like this one just seems the most obvious to me. Because again, the end goal is to replace all the people in a consumer society. So how's that going to play out? It's not going to end well, right? And then we're talking about creative financing, basically. I mean, literally, I'll read it. That's why I want to go over this with you. Banks and fund managers are writing big checks for now, okay? But many are worried about how complicated the deals being signed today will perform when the AI frenzy calms down, right? Another concern is that each time tech companies take on lots of new debt, their borrowing cost rises, right? The cost of borrowing rises. I mean, it's obviously a bubble here when you go through this stuff. And I think I think the reason why it keeps going is because, people just collect their fees and keep their mouth shut. That's what it ends up being. But it's not going to end well. And, Musk is, it's literally, we'll talk about Musk here in a second here. But, Elon Musk, you always hear how he's so awesomely wealthy and all these kind of things. But he's literally every day asking people for money and doing all these raises and moving the money around. The phrase we've been hearing the last month or so has been circular financing in the AI space. When you read, what Musk and sort of his involvement, you'll kind of get it, right? So we'll just go through it. And I talked about before several times on the channel. Musk is also using cash from other parts of his corporate empire like SpaceX, right? So we're shuffling money around his various companies. And the XAI has sold shares and raised debt worth at least $10 billion. But that's a drop in the bucket, right? XAI needs 18 billion just to buy the 300,000 microchips required to run Colossus 2, as if this thing's ever going to work. Investor angst over big tech's AI spending spills into the bond market. Okay, what's going on now? This is all today. The important thing the market woke up to in the past 2 weeks is that it's a public markets that are going to need to finance this AI boom, right? It's all on debt. It's all on leverage. We need to keep borrowing to keep this thing going. Okay, great. More borrowing. JP Morgan on Monday said building AI infrastructure would cost more than $5 trillion. Really? Quote, will likely require participation from every public market, capital market that is, as well as private credit, alternative capital providers, and even government involvement. Jeez. So basically we need money wherever we can get it. The mammoth scale of investment in AI infrastructure has raised concerns about overcapacity, long-term profitability, and energy demands. Of course it does. And then you also got this, which you may or may not know. These, big famous AI startup things, they're not profitable. And they're talking about when are they going to be profitable, right? So we're borrowing all this money. We're looking everywhere we can find to get the money, be it internationally, be it from, maybe institutions, organizations that don't usually invest in this kind of stuff. Or it's like, hey, they just promise everyone, hey, we'll, give you a bunch of money back. You're going to collect all your, premiums or whatever. And none of this stuff is profitable yet. Anthropic is on track to turn a profit much faster than OpenAI. Oh, really? Okay. So what are the projections on profitability? I'll just tell you. Anthropic, they're saying maybe they can break even by 2028. So not even talking profitability. And then I guess OpenAI, the big one, they're talking about turning a profit in 2030. So a while now. And here's another big number here. By contrast, OpenAI forecasts its operating losses that year swell to about 74 billion. Jeez. Or roughly 3/4 of revenue. 74 billion in losses. I think we're just talking about a year here. Just reading it right here. The ChatGPT maker also expects to burn through roughly 14 times as much cash as Anthropic. Okay, so let's just play this out. Okay, let's say their projections are wrong. Let's say they don't become profitable. Like, what happens to all this money that everyone borrowed to build all these data centers, right? Now, certainly you could make the case that NVIDIA's making money because they're the ones selling the chips for this AI boom. But recently we got news today. I mean, this is all coming out today. It's crazy. That SoftBank dumped all of their NVIDIA shares, right? And SoftBank's essentially they invest in a lot of startups and other things. They're out of Japan, and they're just shuffling their money around, and they're going to try to make the case of like, oh, well, it's nothing to do with NVIDIA. We just, have other opportunities or something. Let's read a little bit of this here. So this is actually describing SoftBank. One quote. Longer term, I estimate SoftBank has committed 113 billion of investments, but only has funding ability of 58.5 billion, and hence it's overcommitted. So they've made all these promises to invest in stuff. So now I guess we're selling our NVIDIA shares to fund said stuff that we're overcommitted to. And actually what's interesting, Elon Musk even pointed this out before when it was like OpenAI and SoftBank, and I think Oracle was there, and they were pitching Donald Trump's Stargate stuff. I made a couple of videos back this and actually agreed with Elon on a couple things. Basically, it's all a bubble. But Elon was saying, well, it's a bubble for them, but not for me. I'm going to do it first, which is obviously the whole thing's ridiculous. It's all a bubble. So I wouldn't trust any of these people. The whole U.S. system is based on debt. That's why this whole thing could crash enormously. Like the Trump people just recently, they're pitching you the 50-year mortgage on your home, right? A 50-year mortgage to double interest paid over 10 year. This came out from UBS. They're basically saying if you go to this 50-year thing, you're gonna, double the interest you're gonna pay. And they gave some interesting projections. They're saying your purchasing power would go up, let's say $23,000, right? So you can buy a little bit more house. Your payment would go down by $119 a month. So even less than what we were talking. We were talking before, like maybe $200 or $300, but UBS is like, average home price, average buyer, your monthly payment goes down $119 a month to gain $23,000 of buying power, but then your interest you're going to pay over the life of the loan is going to double. So it's crazy, right? And then you look at the financial health of just your regular consumer person, And these were the headlines then today. This is all coming out today. Like the bubble's absolutely nuts. And it's interesting. I think maybe, just talking out loud, I think maybe they're releasing all this stuff today because the focus is going to be on, and I promise you, I already know how it's going to play out. All the other YouTube channels and all the media, whatever, they're going to be talking about the Senate did this and the Republicans want to get abortion now and blah, blah, blah. And I get it. And I can make a video about that stuff. And I can totally do that. But I think, talking about our economic situation, the massive bubble and fraudulent activity and all big companies, I think it matters. I think following the money matters. You can disagree. You can say, no, Chris, this is all about abortion and we have to talk about that. And maybe. And if that's what you want to watch, you can find plenty of channels to talk about abortion. There's going to be a lot. I'm sure that's the highlight. I literally saw it in the headlines. I'm sure that'll be everyone will be going after. And so that's why I think maybe that's why this news is all coming out now. And a lot of times when you get this kind of news, people ignore it because they just don't understand it. But I try my best to just illustrate this stuff with you guys because I think it's important. When you see this kind of stuff, right? Reverse mortgages edge up as U.S. economy squeeze older Americans, right? When I see this kind of stuff, it just like, isn't it obvious that this is a massive bubble? People can't even afford to retire. So they're like, okay, I got to make some sort of deal with my bank. I'm going to pay more fees. I'm going to hurt how much money that I can pass to my kids, borrow my equity, these kind of things. And you get this kind of stuff when people are struggling. That's basically what it boils down to. And then you add this on to like where we're going into the next couple of months where winter is literally coming, or here you could say. We talked about this before, but I guess it's getting snowfall already. I think a record-breaking cold settles in across the southern U.S., but another big change is coming. So, put this together. Put all together. You have possible fraudulent activity in cooking the books. You've got this massive AI bubble that may or may not ever be profitable. You have a lot of big players in on the game because, yes, they make money off said things. But there's a big, massive power demand on this stuff, okay? Then you've got winter, which is going to, need more power. People who can barely afford to pay the bills, what do you think is going to happen to your electricity rates? Sure, of course it's going to go up. I think this intuitively, you should know these things. And then you got people who are like, hey, you know what? I got to figure out how to make this math work, and the math doesn't math. And that's literally what they were talking about here, the math not mathing. I'll read it. It says, in terms of drivers here, it's really that math doesn't math. That's coming from someone who's in housing nonprofit, right, to try to help people. You've got people living longer with less retirement resources. And these conversations, come out. So it's not like people don't know. It's just that people get distracted by, again, I'm sure all your channels out there are going to be talking about abortion today, and that'll be the topic. And very few people will be talking about this, unfortunately, the massive bubble in AI. So it is what it is. I try to tell you what's going on. I do appreciate your time, and I catch you all in the next video.